All right, this is big time. So we're going to be covering some news today, and then we're going to be covering the defensive gun shootings second. So I usually cover defensive gun shootings on my channel, but today we're going to be going to try to do it in the order of articles and video if I can. I like that presentation. So today we're just going to jump right into the news coming from Remix. 6 injured in stabbing spree at Paris train station. Algerian suspect neutralized by police. The suspect stabbed one man 15 times before entering Gare du Nord and attacking 5 others, including a police officer. Well, thank God these female officers are here to protect us, guys. 6 people have been injured in a knife attack at the Gare du Nord railway station in Paris during rush hour on Wednesday. The incident occurred shortly before 6:45 a.m. with CCTV footage capturing the moment a man stabbed a passerby at the entrance of the train station before chasing his victim into the terminal and attacking 5 others. According to French media, the assailant stabbed his first victim 15 times before entering the station and indiscriminately targeting 4 civilians and a police officer. Sounds like a terrorist attack. It is understood the officer who was attacked was stabbed in the back but was not seriously wounded because he was wearing a bulletproof vest. Well, that depends on the vest. 1 victim suffered life-threatening injuries and has been hospitalized, while others are understood to have been treated at the scene. The attacker was shot multiple times by plainclothes police officers and neutralized. He is under hospital arrest and is understood to be in critical condition. An individual injured several people this morning at the Gare du Nord. He was quickly neutralized, tweeted French Interior Minister Gérald Darmanin on Wednesday. Thank you to the police for their effective and courageous response. No motive, if any, has yet to be established for the attack. What is reported is that there was a determined individual who repeatedly attacked a person. The investigation will say if it was random or if it was targeted, said the Deputy Paris Mayor Julien Bayou. According to Darmanin, the weapon used in the attack was not a knife, but an obviously dangerous weapon they would have made himself. Oh, I wonder if they banned knives like London. French newspaper Le Figaro reported that the suspect confirmed his name as Emine M and is in his 30s, while Le Parisien reported the suspect had confirmed to police he was of Algerian nationality. A criminal investigation has been launched by Paris's public prosecutor. The National Anti-Terrorist Prosecutor's Office is following the situation closely, but has not yet been summoned to intervene, reported French broadcaster BFM TV. Rail departures at the station were initially suspended, but some have since resumed. Sounds like a terrorist attack. Anyway, they're coming for the kids. Report details decades of teacher-student sexual abuse allegations in Chicago's school district. Hundreds of teachers in the 3rd largest school district in the country reportedly sexually groomed, assaulted, and raped students. Graped over a period of decades. According to a new report from the Chicago School District's Office of the Inspector General, over 600 adult-on-student misconduct allegations were filed with its office, and the office has substantiated more than half of them. At least 16 subsequent criminal charges have been filed. That's it? 16? 600 misconduct allegations, 16 criminal charges, that doesn't math, have been filed against CPS-affiliated adults for sex-related crimes by prosecuting agencies, the report states. Among the cases involving criminal charges, there were incidents like these. A teacher allegedly groomed and sexually assaulted a 17-year-old student on 3 occasions. The report states that when the student mentioned that she was going to disclose the sexual abuse, the teacher responded, "Please no," and "We're talking about my entire life here. Please, I'm begging you." A former JROTC staff member allegedly had sex with a girl and sent her text messages, including one boasting, "I'm ready to F right now, and I'm not going to be gentle either." The investigation also revealed that when the JROTC staff member became aware that he might be under investigation, he threatened to kill the student and her family if she disclosed the sexual abuse, the report added. A high school physical education teacher allegedly exposed himself to one girl, prompting staff members who were alerted to make excuses for him, with one saying that the claim had to be false because the teacher had a daughter of his own. A 15-year-old classmate of the girl produced evidence that the teacher had sent her photos and videos of himself masturbating and engaging in other sexual acts, the OIG said. A high school substitute teacher allegedly engaged in kisses, sexual hugs, and back rubs, asking one student to recruit another student for a threesome. An elementary school teacher allegedly touched a CPS student sexually between 1996 and 1999 when the student was approximately 11 to 14 years old and spent the night in the student's bedroom having sex. Due process, fair trial, jury, lawyer, and then you got two choices, the wall or a wood chipper. A teacher who had frequent boundary-crossing interactions with students outside of the school, including hosting students at his residence, going with students to movies and sporting events, having meals with students outside of school, and driving students in his vehicle, the report added. A CPS charter school administrator took a high school junior to a Broadway musical in downtown Chicago, then allegedly touched the student's leg with his own during the show, and then slid his hand down inside in front of the student's pants and touched his genitals on the way home. Well, I'm never sending my kid to public school. Okay, coming out of England. England's NHS to spend £100,000 on trans-inclusive maternity program. England's National Health Service has put forward a £100,000 contract to create a gender-inclusive maternity care training program based on research guided by a trans-identified male who has claimed that men can give birth and that pre-operative trans women have girl penises. Okay, so this is a lunatic who doesn't live in reality. On December 16th, the NHS quietly released an invitation to quote for the Maternity Gender Inclusion Program, with a listed closing date for pilot submissions set for January 11th, 2023, which is today. The contracted program is set to be rolled out to midwives in maternity departments across 40 NHS trusts in England and would be based on the findings of the Improving Trans Experiences of Maternity Services research project, which was co-authored by a trans-identified male and is alleged to have significant flaws in its methodology. With Women, a maternity care advocacy coalition penned an open letter highlighting the flawed research within the item's publications and has called for a complete pause on the contract offering entirely. Speaking with Redux, a spokeswoman from With Women raised multiple concerns, especially with the entirety of the program's focus appearing to be on inclusive language and not improvements in medical care for a traditionally complex cohort. With Women noted that even the invitation to quote appears fixed, with the very short contracting and funding window raising suspicion. With Women indicated their belief that there may be organizations already lined up to take the contract as the timeframes are too brief for uninvolved organizations to adequately prepare a pilot. The items reported, which is being used as a justification for the need for the program, based its findings on the responses of just 121 people. Oh, what a bullshit sample size. The report determined that birthing people, women, were improperly cared for because they were misgendered and made unsubstantiated claims that 30% of trans parents secretly gave birth at home with no medical intervention. What the fuck? The report was co-authored by Dr. Ruth Pierce, a trans-identified male lecturer in community development at Glasgow University. Pierce plays a significant role in the direction of the item's research. Pierce's work focuses on trans pregnancy and queer, trans, and feminist music scenes. Sounds like a waste of time. In an essay posted on his website, Pierce asserts that he is more attractive and confident than biological women. Okay. Quite frankly, I bet a whole load of women would love to be as confident and good looking as I am. I've got a pretty face, great hair, fantastic legs, and I've recently grown some rather shapely breasts. He is also known for having once fronted a queer feminist rage music group through which he sang a song about his scrotum. In an August 2022 video titled Reproductive Justice for Trans People with Ruth Pierce and Francis White, Pierce explains the focus of his work on items, policy, and language surrounding trans birth and the need to highlight transgender people having children to counter the claims that a trans child may not reproduce, and to create media that contradicts Abigail Schreier's claims that child transition can lead to irreversible damage of fertility. He's a liar, too. I mean, I expected you to be a liar when you say that your cut off, misshapen neo-vagina is more attractive than a real woman. You're just delusional. Pierce called attention in particular to a phenomenon known as rapid onset gender dysphoria, which was coined by Lisa Lippman and referenced by Jungian analysis and author Lisa Marciano in a 2017 academic article titled Outbreak on Transgender Teens and Psychic Epidemics. In the article, Marciano examines the role of social media, so social contagion, in the sudden rise in teens claiming a gender identity, stating, a young person's coming out as transgender is often preceded by increased social media use and or having one or more peers also come out as transgender. Pierce mocked the concept of children learning of transgender identities on social media, but later contradicted himself by discussing the issue in the presentation segment titled, We Are the Virus, Reproduction versus Social Contagion. Yeah, so they know. They know it's bullshit. In the segment, Pierce asserted the need to help transgender identifying people to not only sexually reproduce, but also to socially reproduce by means of altering medical language and policy to introduce the idea of transition to children and adults as a form of reproductive justice, thereby creating more transgender people. Oh, so you want to destroy the lives of more children. In the video, so in other words, you're miserable. So now it's got to be crabs in a bucket, right? Now, not only is your life destroyed, so now you have to destroy other people's lives, right? In the video, Pierce acknowledged that social contagion is the method by which transgenderism proliferates, stating, Alexis Davin noted that the very process that Lisa Marciano and Abigail Schreier described as a social contagion is the means by which trans people engage in a form of social reproduction. We become visible to one another and introduce one another to a language that makes sense of our lives and of our needs. Later in the seminar, he concluded, I've been thinking a lot about social contagion because it's the language of the anti-trans movement. But the exact thing they're describing is the exact means by which we reproduce ourselves. During the seminar, Pierce described the work he did with Brighton and Sussex University Hospitals NHS Trust, arguing for the need for gender-inclusive language to create language's possibility and posters that act as apparent recruitment advertising for its political transgender movement. Pierce elaborated by saying, in Brighton and Sussex University Hospitals, there's a really interesting example of queer spaces of care being created through an institution rather than through more radical networks. Listen to them trying to brainwash you into creating more population control. Pierce's involvement with the items research as well as to justify an NHS maternity program comes less than 1 year after NHS negligence was found to have been responsible for the needless deaths of over 200 babies and 9 mothers at a Shrewsbury and Telford NHS trust. According to internal investigations, repeated failures in the quality of care and governance was to blame for the deaths, which spanned over 2 decades, with an additional 1,486 families and 1,592 incidents being recorded as a result of inadequate maternity care oversight. Redux has previously revealed how errors and confusion arose due to the use of inaccurate medical language, which led to midwifery students at Napier University in Edinburgh being taught how to care for males giving birth through penises and prostates. We're going into witchcraft now. According to a course workbook, students were advised, it is important to note that while most times the birthing person will have female genitalia, you may be caring for a pregnant or birthing person who is transitioning from male to female and may still have external male genitalia. Yep, that's where we are now because of people like this motherfucker. So this motherfucker hates who they are, and now they want to destroy everyone else and bring them down with them. Great. All right, and another, they're coming for the kids. Biological males blocked from competing in women's school sports in West Virginia federal court. One second.
They will not see this.
A federal judge in West Virginia has upheld a state law preventing male athletes who identify as female from participating in female school sports. In a ruling on January 5th, Judge Joseph R. Goodwin of the Southern District of West Virginia said that HB 3293, the Save Women's Sports Bill, was constitutionally permissible. The bill defines girl and woman as biologically female for the purpose of secondary school sports, and Goodwood found that this was substantially related to its important interest in providing equal athletic opportunities for females. I have no doubt that HB 3293 aimed to politicize participation in school athletes for transgender students, said Goodwin in the ruling. Nevertheless, there is not a sufficient record of legislative animus. Considering the law under the intermediate scrutiny standard, I find that it is substantially related to an important government interest. The law was first introduced in March 2021, but was challenged by the American Civil Liberties Union. Of course, the ACLU represented trans-identified male middle school student Becky Pepper Jackson, who was barred from the girls' cross-country team. Right. I don't think men with dicks should be in locker rooms with women. Is that hard to understand? You're a dude. This is going to lead to the Loudoun County thing again. Well, you're saying the woman with the dick sexually assaulted another woman who wasn't born with a dick? How could that happen? Middle school. They're trying to middle school. This, the ACLU argued, was a violation of Pepper Jackson's rights under the 14th Amendment Equal Protection Clause in Title 6? I don't remember my Roman numerals. The federal state statute that prohibits sex-based discrimination. At the time, Goodwin ruled in favor of the ACLU and blocked the law at the preliminary stage, ruling that Pepper Jackson was being excluded from school sports on the basis of sex, making it a Title VI violation. While Goodwin acknowledged in his new decision that the law was seeking to prevent transgender girls from playing on sports teams, he highlighted the biological differences between male and females that gave males a significant sporting advantage. While some females may be able to outperform some males, it is generally accepted that, on average, males outperform females athletically because of inherent physical differences between the sexes. This is not an overbroad generalization, but rather a general principle that realistically reflects the average physical differences between the sexes, said the judge. Goodwin also noted that while Pepper Jackson has taken puberty blockers, not all transgender athletes do. Some only socially transition, while others take blockers and hormones at a later stage in puberty. Goodwin stated that there is much debate over whether and to what extent hormone therapies affect puberty can reduce a transgender girl's athletic advantages over cisgender girls. The fact is, however, that a transgender girl is biologically male and, barring medical intervention, would undergo male puberty like other biological males, and biological males generally outperform females athletically. Oh, yeah, no shit. Remember when the United States women's world soccer team and the Australian world soccer team were both beaten by high school boys? Does anybody remember that? The state is permitted to legislate sports rules on this basis because sex and the physical characteristics that flow from it are substantially related to athletic performance and fairness in sports, Goodwin ruled. The West Virginia ACLU has filed the lawsuit alleging that banning girls from participating in school sports because they are transgender is unconstitutional. In a 2019 speech, developmental biologist Dr. Emma Hilton demonstrated just how wide the gap between the athletic performance of biological males and females is. So big is the gap, there are 9,000 males between 100-meter world record holders Usain Bolt, and Flojo. So easy does the gap emerge. The current female 100-meter Olympic champion, Elaine Thompson, is slower than the 14-year-old schoolboy record holder, said Hilton. This decision was supported by West Virginia Attorney General Patrick Morrisey. This is not only about simple biology, but fairness for women's sports, plain and simple, Morrissey, who is Republican, said in a statement. Opportunities for girls and women on the field are precious, and we must safeguard that future. Protecting these opportunities is important because when biological males compete in a women's event, women and girls lose their opportunity to shine. It's never going to be enough. You have to put your fucking boot on their neck. It's never going to be enough. Pepper Jackson is represented by the West Virginia ACLU and as well as LGBT legal defense group Lambda Legal and law firm Cooley LLP. According to Education Week, the group said in a joint statement that they were disappointed and still considering the next step. The district court's ruling is disappointing both for its harmful conclusion and its spurious argument. The fact is, the equal and fair participation of transgender youth takes nothing away from cisgender youth and helps to maintain a level playing field for all youth. Yeah, so they're delusional too. Okay, so in other news, we have a quiet settlement where a soccer player was told that if they don't support black people burning down the country and stupid white people burning down the country as well, she was benched because she didn't take the knee. She was benched for her political beliefs, so she sued the college.
Virginia Tech women's soccer player may proceed with a lawsuit against her former coach. Kirsten Henning says she was benched and pressured to leave the team for refusing to kneel during a social justice demonstration before a game. It happened at the height of the Black Lives Matter movement in 2020. She claims the coach verbally attacked her at halftime after the...
Yeah, the Black Lives Matter movement, where 3 trained Marxists were all concerned about getting money and buying themselves houses and mansions and having parties. That movement that started to burn down Philly, where I'm from, because, oh, the poor fucking criminal. Fuck BLM.
Incident and jabbed a finger in her face. She eventually quit the team. Clay Travis, Outkick founder now, is here. First of all, Clay, it takes some time for these things to work their way through legally, but this has been basically torment for a couple of years, just waiting to see how this would turn out for this young woman.
No doubt, Harris, and I think what it speaks to is how quickly things pivoted from taking a knee is the outspoken and brave thing to do for purposes of the media to if you don't take a knee, you're an awful human being and you should be reviled for it. And obviously, I think some of the temperature has been brought down over the past several years associated with controversies during the national anthem. But at the height of 2020, during the BLM protests, as many of our cities were burning across this country, there was a lot of pressure on a variety of different athletes.
I like that. I like that he said cities were burning. Good.
To either kneel,
tell the fucking truth,
or have to deal with consequences from their schools, from their coaches. And this young woman appears to have been brave enough to say that she was not going to kneel and then dealt with many consequences from that. And we are just now, Harris, starting to get a resolution to a 2-year-old process, but good for her for standing up and being brave enough to have the courage of her convictions when she was being pressured by her coach to do something that she didn't agree with.
Look, real quickly, because I do want to get to the Virginia group that's under threat right now. But is there any connection or do you see probability of a problem? During the pandemic, shouldn't we have been worried about a college student or college students and their health rather than squashing freedom of religion or free speech? I'm just, what were we trying to really protect our kids from then?
Colleges don't believe in free speech anymore. And this is a white pill. Good for this girl for standing up for herself. You have the right to speak or not to speak. And if she doesn't wish to support a Marxist movement that hates America and hates the police and wants black criminals to just get away with everything and thinks that white people should just give them all of their resources, she has the right to say she doesn't believe in it. Good for her.
No, I mean, look, that's a great point because I fought as hard as I possibly could at Outkick for all of these sporting events to actually be played. And for everyone out there who remembers, the Big Ten and the Pac-12 had said, it wasn't safe enough to even play
Right.
during a COVID fall of 2020. And women's soccer is one of the sports, give credit here to the ACC for even allowing sports to be played and sticking with the SEC and the Big 12. And remember, of course, eventually the Big 10 and the Pac-12 came back and said, oh, wait, we got it all wrong. And Harris, this is a big point that almost no one will discuss now. Everybody ended up completely fine, right? Everybody who played sports in the fall of 2020, there's virtually zero connection between ill health and COVID anywhere in the country, not only for college, certainly in the pros, but also importantly for the high school kids that were able to play.
Amen to that. Free speech, though, still getting kicked if she was either forced to kneel or you can quit. So she left the team, and now we know how things are turning out. All right, Clay, a conservative religious group says its members are now getting death threats.
Yeah, so in other words, she sued for a $100,000 settlement, which they quietly settled. However, the coach got to say that he did no wrongdoing. Now, I think that's bullshit. I think the coach should have to come out and grovel in front of her and apologize, and they should make it a national fucking event. I'm tired of colleges taking away our amendments. All right, and finally, for some defensive gun use, in case anyone's new to the channel, this is the Gun Violence Archive. This is one of the sources I use for defensive gun uses. Link in the description. And essentially it covers mass shootings, and it also covers defensive gun uses. So I've got two today I want to show.
.911 call made during an attempted robbery in Harrison Township. Take a listen.
I got an armed robbery. There's a guy downstairs.
That caller told dispatchers he lives above Boost Mobile Store on North Dixie Drive. He heard sounds coming from inside the store, then went downstairs, found a man and a teenage girl trying to steal merchandise. The caller fired several shots, hitting the would-be thief. After the shooting, both suspects ran off to a nearby home. The man was taken to the hospital where he later died. Right now, News Center 7's Mike Campbell is working to speak with the Montgomery County Sheriff's Office about their investigation. He will have the latest details for us during our 90 minutes of news starting today at 5.
Hey guys, we are giving out.
Yeah, so guy came downstairs, found two people robbing a store, opened fire at him. It gets kind of dicey. Don't know if they had weapons, don't know if they pointed a weapon at him. That's not necessarily how castle doctrine works. There has to be a threat of life. Technically, he didn't have to go into the store. He could have just stayed in his apartment. There's a thing about leaving cover. You know, you have to be careful about that. Like if there's like in Pennsylvania, if there's an altercation outside in the street and it doesn't involve me or my family, if I leave my home to participate, that could get dicey. Now, if like a kid is being beaten to death and being jumped by 5 or 6 kids and they're stomping on the kid's head, well, you know, that kind of changes it. But understand that people are going to question you. Why did you leave your home? Why did you leave your castle to try to help? So, you know, you take a risk either way. And then finally, the last one we have is, I wish it was a happier story, but man shot his wife, and then after he shot her, another family member shot the man. So still defensive gun use now.
Husband and wife are dead after a tragic shooting that took place last night in Foley. Fox 10's Ashlyn Nichols joining us live in studio. Ashlyn, investigators say this all started out as a domestic situation.
Yes, it was, Lee. The Baldwin County Sheriff's Office says they received a call around 10 p.m. last night. That caller was concerned about the domestic incident happening at a residence on Greenway Drive. According to the caller, the suspect, Scott Blackwell, was armed with a pistol and acting strangely. After the call, officers say Blackwell grew physically aggressive towards his wife, Cindy Blackwell, then proceeded to shoot her. A family member then shot Scott Blackwell. Investigators say these two shootings happened right before deputies arrived. Both Scott and Cindy Blackwell passed away from their injuries. BCSO says based on their evidence so far, the family member who shot Scott Blackwell did so in defense of Cindy Blackwell and others that were in the residence. Officers say that person has not been charged with a criminal offense. There's still a lot of unanswered questions, and of course, we will keep you updated as we learn more. For now.
Yeah, so again, sounds like defense of others, castle doctrine. And I mean, that's a shame that they both died, but I wanted to show that because there's a situation where they said where multiple people were in the room, multiple family members, and it sounds like, unfortunately, rest in peace to the wife, but if the family member hadn't shot the psycho husband, from the story that it sounds like, he might have killed more people. So anyway, that's today's stream. We're going to try to present an article and video. I'm Big Time, and that's news to me.